A day off from school turned into the wildest adventure of youth. Ferris Bueller's Day Off is more than just a movie, it's a symbol of freedom, rebellion, and living life on your own terms. A perfect plan, an unforgettable day, and a character the world could never forget. But nearly 40 years later, what really happened to the cast? Let's find out! Number 1. Matthew Broderick as Ferris Bueller. When the film was released in 1986, Matthew Broderick was exactly 24 years old, an age young enough to carry rebellious energy but mature enough to control the rhythm of an entire cinematic story. And from the very first moment when Ferris Bueller breaks the fourth wall and looks straight at the audience, everything is decided. This is not just a character, but the soul of a generation, a mastermind behind a perfectly absurd truancy plan. From faking illness by raising the thermometer, deceiving his parents, to orchestrating his best friend Cameron and girlfriend Sloane into joining an adventure across Chicago. Every action of Ferris is designed like a chess game. He calls pretending to be Sloane's father to rescue her from school, then persuades Cameron, a boy suffocated by a domineering father, to step out of his comfort zone. And here, Ferris's journey is not just mischief, but becomes a catalyst for change in others. The three of them drive Cameron's family's valuable Ferrari, enjoying every moment from a luxurious restaurant to an art museum. And the peak is the twist and shout performance on a parade float, a symbolic scene where Ferris is no longer a student, but the embodiment of freedom. Meanwhile, Principal Rooney's pursuit highlights Ferris's intelligence and absurd luck as he escapes every trap, even running across multiple backyards to return home before his parents notice. This creates a breathless yet humorous ending. The combination of intelligence, boldness, and the ability to speak directly to the audience makes this role immortal. It turned Matthew Broderick into the face of 1980s American youth, a symbol that is still referenced today as a standard of coming-of-age films. But behind that glory, Broderick's life was not without dramatic turns. Just 1 year after the film's success, in 1987, he was involved in a serious car accident in Northern Ireland that resulted in 2 deaths, a tragedy that haunted his career and image for years. Despite that, he rebuilt his reputation through stage and film roles, especially a celebrated Broadway career in his high-profile marriage to Sara Jessica Parker, the star of Sex and the City. From a clever and carefree 24-year-old in Ferris Bueller's Day Off, by 2026, Matthew Broderick is 64 years old, a veteran artist with a career spanning over 4 decades, no longer the rule-breaking teenager, but still retaining his signature charm and intelligence. And perhaps what makes Ferris Bueller live forever is not just the mischief, but the feeling that somewhere inside all of us, there is always a day when we want to skip life and live it fully, just like Matthew Broderick did on a summer day in 1986. Number 2. Alan Ruck as Cameron Frye in 1986. When he stood in front of the camera as Cameron Frye, Alan Ruck was already 30 years old, much older than the high school student he portrayed. But that age gap unintentionally created rare psychological depths, because Cameron is not a superficially rebellious teenager, but a person suffocated from within, living under the heavy shadow of a controlling and cold father. From the very first moments, the audience feels the clear contrast between Ferris full of energy and Cameron gloomy, anxious, almost panicking at the thought of lying or breaking rules. Cameron's journey begins reluctantly, pulled out of his imaginary sickbed by Ferris to join the trip, and every step he takes is filled with fear. From borrowing his father's precious Ferrari, something he sees more as a symbol of power than a car to every moment of the day, he stands between enjoyment and guilt. The psychological climax explodes when the Ferrari accidentally reverses off its stand and crashes through the glass, a collapse that not only destroys the car but also shatters Cameron's emotional shell. In that moment, he is no longer a frightened boy but chooses to face his father, accept the consequences, and stand up for himself for the first time in his life. A turning point of growth built slowly but incredibly powerfully. This character arc makes Cameron the true heart of the film. If Ferris starts the adventure, Cameron ends it with internal transformation. Alan Ruck's performance with worried eyes and a trembling voice that gradually becomes firm makes the character so real that many viewers see themselves in him. After the film, Alan Ruck did not become an instant superstar like Matthew Broderick, but he quietly built a steady career with many memorable supporting roles, especially Connor Roy in the hit series Succession, which brought him widespread recognition later in life. A kind of late but deep success. In his personal life, Ruck had a first marriage with Claudia Stefani and later married actress Mireille Enos. His life has been relatively private, with few major scandals, though not entirely free from incidents, including a car accident in 2023 that attracted media attention. Though not severe, From an anxious 30-year-old student in 1986, by 2026, Alan Ruck is 70 years old, still active in the entertainment industry as a respected actor. If Ferris represents the dream of freedom, Cameron represents the reality of fear, but he is also the one who dares to change. And when the day off ends, what remains is not laughter, but a person who has truly grown. Number 3. Sara. As Sloane Peterson in 1986, Sara was only 19 years old, exactly the age of a high school girl, and perhaps that perfect alignment made Sloane Peterson the dream girlfriend archetype without effort. Not loud like Ferris, not chaotic like Cameron, but a gentle balance between two extremes, someone smart enough to understand Ferris's game and free enough to enjoy it without losing herself. Sloane's journey begins with a bold deception when Ferris pretends to be her father to call her out of school, and within minutes, she steps out of the school structure into an adventure that may become a lifelong memory. From walking out of the school gate with absolute confidence to sitting in the red Ferrari, a symbol of luxury and rebellion, Sloane shows no fear. Instead, she embraces everything with a calm smile, as if breaking rules is nothing new. Throughout the journey, Sloane is not just a follower but an emotional catalyst. She calms Cameron when he panics and creates subtle romantic moments with Ferris, especially the elevator kiss scene, both gentle and bold, perfectly reflecting her personality. Unbound by rules but never losing elegance. At the fancy restaurant, she effortlessly plays along with the false identity. At the art museum, as the three stand before timeless paintings, Sloane becomes the bridge between Ferris's chaos and Cameron's inner turmoil, bringing a necessary quiet rhythm to the story. This balance makes Sara's role special, not needing excessive dialogue or dramatic actions, yet always leaving an impression, a charm rooted in naturalness and authenticity. After the film's success, Sara appeared in notable projects like Legend with Tom Cruise, but her career did not explode as expected, partly because she chose a more private life instead of chasing Hollywood fame. Her personal life also saw changes, including her first marriage to Jason Connery, the son of Sean Connery, before divorcing and later marrying Brian Henson, son of Jim Henson, from a vibrant 19-year-old in Ferris Bueller's Day Off. By 2026, Sara is 59 years old, largely stepping away from the spotlight to live a quieter life. Yet Sloane Peterson remains a symbol of gentle freedom, not loud rebellion, but the courage to step outside the rules for a single day and live it fully as if it would never come again. Number 4. Jeffrey Jones as Principal Ed Rooney. In 1986, Jeffrey Jones was 40 years old, an age that allowed him to portray Principal Ed Rooney with a strange mix of authority, frustration, and a touch of desperation. From his first appearance, Rooney is not just a strict educator, but the embodiment of a rigid system trying to control someone as clever as Ferris Bueller. He does not believe the illness excuse, is not fooled by simple tricks, and that suspicion turns him into the main hunter of the story, a man willing to do anything, even crossing professional boundaries just to prove Ferris is lying. His journey begins in the school office, tracking every clue, then quickly turns into a full pursuit as he goes to Ferris's house to catch him. From here, the film shifts into near slapstick comedy. Rooney faces one ironic situation after another, attacked by a dog, suspected by neighbors, accidentally damaging property, and even being discovered and misunderstood by Jeanie. Every step he takes carries increasing bitterness. The more he tries to control, the more he loses control. The more he tries to prove himself right, the more ridiculous he becomes. The climax is not when he catches Ferris, because that never happens, but when the system he represents turns against him, his evidence fails, and he becomes the one mocked, defeated not by force, but by the flexibility of a student. This contrast makes the role memorable. Rooney is not entirely a villain. He is simply an adult trapped in principles, unable to see that the world has changed. Jeffrey Jones delivers a performance that is both humorous and bitter, making the audience laugh while feeling a hint of sympathy. After the film, he continued with notable supporting roles, but his life took a controversial turn in 2002 due to a serious legal scandal involving inappropriate conduct with minors, leading to his registration as a sex offender, a scandal that nearly destroyed his reputation in Hollywood. From a 40-year-old principal obsessed with catching students in 1986, by 2026, Jeffrey Jones is 79 years old, living privately and largely withdrawn from the spotlight, leaving behind an artistic legacy overshadowed by personal controversy. And perhaps the greatest irony is this: while Ferris Bueller is remembered as a symbol of freedom, Ed Rooney becomes a reminder that sometimes rigidity is what leads to failure. Number 5. Jennifer Grey as Jeanie Bueller. In 1986, Jennifer Grey was 26 years old, older than the high school student she portrayed, but that maturity made Jeanie Bueller one of the most complex characters in the film. because she is not just an annoyed older sister, but the embodiment of family imbalance, where all attention is given to Ferris, the perfect younger brother in their parents' eyes, while Jeanie is overlooked and ignored. That emotion is shown from her very first scenes through irritated eyes, a sharp voice, and clear defiance. When Ferris carries out his truancy plan, Jeanie is the only one who does not believe his illness. From there, she begins her own journey not to enjoy, but to expose the truth. From leaving school early to check at home to directly confronting Principal Rooney, Jeanie becomes a truth hunter parallel to the adult pursuit. But ironically, she is constantly blocked by unexpected situations. She is even misunderstood and taken to the police station after a minor altercation. It is here that her psychological turning point occurs, when she meets a mysterious young man played by Charlie Sheen, a true rebel who makes her realize that the problem is not Ferris, but her perspective on life and herself. In that moment, her anger transforms into understanding, a subtle yet crucial change. When she returns home, she no longer tries to expose Ferris. Instead, she chooses to protect him, a decision that marks real maturity, letting go of the need to be right to preserve something greater. Family. This arc makes Jeanie one of the most memorable characters, because she represents those who feel forgotten, yet eventually find a way to reconcile with themselves. In real life, Jennifer Grey also experienced major upheavals. Just 1 year after the film, she became a global sensation with Dirty Dancing. But shortly after, a car accident in 1987 while dating Matthew Broderick resulted in 2 deaths and left deep psychological trauma. Additionally, a later nose surgery drastically changed her appearance, to the point she once said, "I went into the operating room a celebrity and came out anonymous," a major shock to her rising career. Nevertheless, she continued working, winning Dancing with the Stars in 2010 and gradually reclaiming her place. From a 26-year-old sister full of anger in Ferris Bueller's Day Off, by 2026, Jennifer Grey is 66 years old, carrying both the glory and scars of Hollywood. If Ferris represents freedom, Jeanie is a reminder that sometimes the hardest journey is not escaping the world, but learning to accept it. Number 6. Cindy Pickett as Katie Bueller. In 1986, Cindy Pickett was 39 years old, an age that perfectly embodied a typical American middle-class mother, gentle, caring, yet unintentionally distant from her children's inner world. In Ferris Bueller's Day Off, Katie Bueller is not the center of mischief or chases, but she forms an important emotional foundation, because her absolute trust allows Ferris to execute his perfect truancy plan. From the beginning, Katie appears as a worried mother caring for her sick son, checking his temperature, asking with concern, completely unaware that it is all an elaborate act. This not only shows Ferris's cleverness but reflects a reality. The gap between parents and children can be so large that even obvious things become invisible. Throughout Ferris's journey, Katie remains on the other side of the story, the world of adults filled with work, responsibility, and rules. She goes to work, talks with her husband on the phone, believing everything at home is fine. That trust becomes a source of tension, because the audience knows that one small mistake could expose everything. The climax comes when Katie unexpectedly decides to return home early, a moment that sharply accelerates the film's pace. As Ferris races against time to get back before his parents notice, the image of a mother entering an empty house where any trace of deception could be revealed creates invisible yet powerful pressure. However, like many times before, Ferris escapes at the last second, and Katie remains unaware, ending a day she believes her son spent in bed. Cindy Pickett's role stands out not for dramatic actions, but for realism. She represents parents who believe they understand their children, but only see what they want to see. This gentle blindness forms the foundation of the entire story. In real life, Cindy Pickett has an interesting story. She married Lyman Ward, the actor who played her husband in the film, a rare from screen to real life relationship in Hollywood. Though they later divorced, it remains a memorable behind-the-scenes detail. Her career after the film was not highly publicized. She continued acting in some projects before gradually stepping away from the spotlight, avoiding major scandals. From a trusting 39-year-old mother in 1986, by 2026, Cindy Pickett is 79 years old, living a quieter life, and Katie Bueller remains, not as a comedic or dramatic figure, but as a gentle reminder that sometimes parental love, no matter how sincere, can unintentionally create gaps that children will fill in their own way. Number 7. Lyman Ward as Tom Bueller. In 1986, Lyman Ward was 45 years old, an age mature enough to portray the image of a typical father, serious, work-focused, and believing everything in the family is running smoothly. In Ferris Bueller's Day Off, Tom Bueller is not a frequently appearing character, but each appearance carries the weight of a countdown clock for Ferris's plan, because one moment of suspicion could collapse everything. From the beginning, Tom appears as a busy but caring father in a traditional sense. He trusts Ferris's words and does not question deeply when he fakes illness. That trust, like Katie's, becomes a shield for his clever son. Throughout the day, Tom exists mostly outside the main action. He works, communicates through phone calls, representing the adult world, a world measured by responsibility and logic, completely opposite to Ferris's spontaneity and freedom. What makes the character interesting lies in near-danger moments. When Tom unexpectedly changes plans, decides to come home early, or appears at times Ferris is unprepared, creating tense, almost caught situations, especially at the end, when Ferris runs through backyards, fences, and pools just to return to bed before his parents enter, and Tom, completely unaware, becomes the one validating that perfect performance. This unconscious role makes Tom an important part of the film's structure. He is not a direct antagonist like Rooney, but he is the greatest risk, a silent danger Ferris must always calculate. Lyman Ward's performance feels very real, not exaggerated, not overly comedic, but like a real-life father, helping the film maintain a balance between entertainment and realism. In real life, Ward's story is also tied to the film in a special way. He married Cindy Pickett, his on-screen wife, creating a rare connection between fiction and reality. Though they later separated, it remains a memorable behind-the-scenes story. His career was not as prominent as some co-stars, mostly taking supporting roles and maintaining a steady, low-profile image, avoiding major scandals. From a 45-year-old father in 1986, a symbol of trust and simplicity, to 2026, Lyman Ward is 85 years old, rarely appearing in public. But Tom Bueller remains an essential piece, because without fathers like him, there would be no perfect days off. And sometimes, it is the simplicity and trust of adults that makes youth more daring than ever. A day off ends, but the spirit of Ferris Bueller's Day Off never leaves cinematic memory, because sometimes what we remember most is not the story, but the feeling of living fully like Ferris in a day that will never happen again.